All right, so tell us how it started, Flannery. How'd you get? Was the Legend Cars your first?
I started in quarter midgets, actually.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, when I was 7.
Thompson or Silver City?
Silver City was our main track, and then as we got older, we started doing Thompson, stuff like that. My mom actually got us into racing.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
She was tired of bringing my brother and I to soccer and basketball and baseball, and my father was working, right? He was providing for the family, and he had to do that a lot of the time of the day and the weeks. So, she had they hinted at the dirt bike stuff, and they went and watched a dirt bike race, and they watched 7 ambulances leave before the races were over, and figured that wasn't a good idea. And a couple friends of ours from town had been racing, their kids had been racing at Silver City, so we went down, watched it. My father fell in love, bought a couple of old,
How old are you at this time?
I was 7, so.
I forget what you said. Is your brother older or younger?
He's younger, so he was. We're almost 2 years apart.
Okay, gotcha.
So he was probably 5 or 6 at the time, so we bought 2 older Cheetah chassis. Chris Sherman. I don't know how many people. Quarter midget people here, but so we bought a couple and ran a couple years, and then got friendly with Chris. My father got to be friendly. He worked at Plaza, and my father had the towing business, so it was just good conversation, good people. And we stuck with him. We had the Cheetah chassis all the way through, and I ran until I was 13. We won the Nationals at Silver City in the half midget in 2008. And then 2010, I believe, is when I started racing Legend Cars.
Wow. And then you immediately were, you get your Legend car from the Jags and Jason?
No, so we bought our Legend car. The 2 Legend cars that we started with were from David Gravel. So
wow.
David was older than me. He'd raced quarter midgets before me, so they kind of graduated up as we were coming through. And my father was friendly with his father, and as we were going through, it was one of those deals where he had a couple for sale, so he went and got them. And his cars were always crazy beautiful. I mean, we picked up these 2 Legend cars, and they're hand airbrushed flames and skulls on them, and they're red and blue because IGA was his big sponsor. They're beautiful, beautiful cars. And first thing I did was tear the fenders off of them. I mean, I just drove the wheels off them. but
that's
then,
crazy.
So
it started with gravel. I mean, that's just like like the one dirt name that stands out to me. Like, I don't watch a lot of dirt, but when I do, it's always me rooting for gravel. Usually.
No, and it's crazy because he's one of the only guys really from this area that's been super successful in that. A lot of those guys are Midwest or Southeast, I guess, kind of area.
Or even up more.
Right, or even up Canada or far west. But yeah, he's made a name for himself for sure.
Mm. What was your dominant year? 2013? No. I gotta look that up. Hold on.
2012. The Legend cars.
I think I had the 13 because that was the streak, right?
13 wins in a row.
13 wins in a row.
The most consecutive.
So that car. So I remember that car was so dominant because Jason was dominant in it, and then you were dominant in it. I remember talking to Palmer, and he was like, yeah, I know we do good up here. He's like, but I took that to nationals at Charlotte and I got my ass kicked. He's like, don't misconstrue it. You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, there's a lot of great Legend cars and a lot of great Legend car drivers up and down the East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, okay, yeah. So hold on here. Most consecutive feature wins.
I think it still stands.
It does. Yep. So Junior in 2014 had 11 straight.
Yep.
He had more wins during the year, but you had the bigger streak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is so that's 2010.
2010. So maybe so it was 2009 I started racing Legend cars. Because it was my second year in the Legend cars that we acquired Jason's old car that year.
Who was working on it for you?
Me and my father.
Who was setting them up?
Jason and Jags were helping us. You know what I mean? We had bought the car from Jason. He helped us set it up.
So what happened to the 2 you bought?
Oh, we sold them off. One of them actually I still had. I don't know if it's still there. We might have scrapped it, but they were old sedans and nobody really wanted them.
Yeah,
I think we sold one of them, and then the other one we ended up just stripping.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know you had bought a car off those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason was dominant the year before.
Yeah, we had won 3 races the first year with the old sedans that we had, and it's just one of those things, right? We were friends with them, and Jason was moving up to the late models. He was, my father was pestering him. That's how it always was, right? When we were racing quarter midgets, if we had a car that we were crazy good and we dominated and we were getting to move up a class, it was always like last race of the season, everybody's coming around. Hey, you want to sell it? You want to sell it? I sold my half midget to the day we won the Grand Nationals. Glenn Corners, the father came over, my father, and bought our half midget. I never even brought it home. Loaded it into his trailer that night.
Wow.
I mean, it was just, that's how it was. So that car was winning. My father, nothing against my father. I'm the first generation. We didn't know anything about setting up race cars. So it was always, whatever I had to figure out how to make the best.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So not so much buying speed, but you're paying for help, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it was one of those deals where that was a good car. We knew our stuff was old. We bought it, and obviously we didn't make a bad decision.
Right.
And we drove it to 2 championships that year. And,
dude, they were dominant.
Yeah.
Almost felt bad in the victory lane interview sometimes.
I know. It's like, this is like, it's like Groundhog Day.
So when you guys go legend cars, your brother stops racing at that point?
He had stopped a few years before that in the quarter midget stuff.
So he didn't get hooked on it.
And what's crazy is he was good.
Really?
He was good. He was the kind of kid that would show up on Saturday, and my father was like, "Hey, you gonna win tonight?" "Yeah, I think I'll win tonight." And he'd go win the race.
Wow.
And the next week he'd say, we're gonna win tonight. I'm gonna hang out with my friends. He'd go finish 5th, jump out of the car, straight to hang out with his buddies.
Isn't that weird how that happens?
He wasn't not that he wasn't interested, but he didn't have the same interest as me, I guess.
Yeah.
You do have to love it. I mean, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it takes a lot out of your life.
Just not even just mentally, never mind the financial part of it.
Right.
You have to really want it to keep doing it. And it's good that people have that ability to say, "Hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm not into it. I don't know if I don't have it in me yet. I don't think. I mean, I could crash 5 weeks in a row and I'd still be there every Saturday.
Right.
I just, I don't have it in me yet."
So what made you guys decide when you conquered the legend cars? What made you say, "Okay, late models is what we want to go to next"?
It was they looked like the Cup cars, right?
Yeah.
It was cool.
True.
That's a good reason.
And we were
I think yours went like a Cup car.
We were kind of following Jason, right? So we got into the legend cars, got to be friends with Jason and Jags, and he moved up to the late models. And with the quarter midget stuff, at least the way a lot of people treated it was, if you went out, you won a championship, you moved up a class. It's different with the quarter midget. You have to buy a new car. Sometimes you just change the restrictor plate, or you buy a different engine, and you just keep moving up to the higher class. So it was like we went out, we won Wednesday and Saturday night championship. At that point, could we have just gone on and won a few more, or maybe won a few more, maybe had a bad season, whatever. But it's go out on top, right? So we won the 2 championships, and won them same year. Only Jags and Jason had done that at that point, I think, to have 2 championships in the same year.
Yeah, I think DiMatteo did it too.
But
it was rare. He did it after me. That's right. Yeah.
So it was like you're part of this elite group. Right?
Yeah,
so
right.
Don't go out and ruin it.
Right.
But it was one of those things where we wanted to move up, and I liked late models. I still love late models. I love racing modifieds, but and late models are pretty.
So you went to the UNOH, was that what it was?
Yep. In Ohio.
And that was for what, 2 years?
2 years. Yeah, there's no summer break, so it's just 2 years.
That's how my school was.
Through.
Yeah. So is that school still going on?
Oh yeah.
I feel like it was hot for a while.
It was it was a really big
thing. They had a
thing.
huge NASCAR media presence.
Yeah, especially New Hampshire. They were sponsoring races at New Hampshire.
When I was there, my second year, they were all of a sudden their names all over the Bristol Speedway when they're running. They were all over. They were doing this crazy fan zone stuff, and they were really promoting their racing end of it, because they're one of the only places around that have a high performance school.
Yeah, it's like the Stefanik doc, the infamous Daytona thing, when he said that was the UNOH Battle of the Beach. That was in 2013.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just like anything, right? Everybody, you see this, it comes and goes. Small racing, big racing. You spend all this money, and it gets to a point where you got to stop somewhere. And I'm sure they got plenty back from it as far as people coming to the school and stuff like that. But your sponsor in NASCAR. NASCAR, unfortunately, has been losing fans also.
Right.
So, you keep dumping money into it, and you're not getting the return.
So, I mean, was it, do you have a degree?
I do, yeah.
What's your degree in?
I have an associate's degree in business management, and I actually went to school to work on diesel trucks. So I have a certificate. There's no degree for, even a mechanic.
Race car driver.
Right? Yeah,
right.
I could have gone to Lincoln Tech, stayed at home, and got my same certificate that's worth toilet paper.
Right.
But they didn't have race cars there.
Yeah.
So I went to Ohio because I got to drive race cars. I'd go to school from 7 in the morning until 12:30. We'd go to the shop at 1, and we'd work on race cars until 6, 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
we raced every Friday. We traveled out west. We went to I-55, a couple other tracks out Indiana, Iowa area, and then we went down to Florida for speed weeks and raced at Volusia. And, you know, it was just like being at home with all your buddies and no parents. Yeah. Right? I mean, how
good were the cars?
They were good pieces. Yeah, no, I mean they were good cars. It's regimented, and the whole point of that program is to get people ready for NASCAR or like a professional high-end racing series. So that each car had a crew of 7 or 8 students, and you know, 2 guys were rear suspension, 1 guy was front suspension. Every car had an engine guy. Every car had a crew chief and a driver. And
so, how do they determine that? Through
tryouts?
Even driving?
Yeah, yeah. So I did the first year you're eligible to drive the street stocks. So
they're dirt.
They're a dirt street stock. They're a metric front clip with a tube rear. They're monoleaf, which a lot of I think they've switched now to like a 4-link because they started changing the rules. You can run 3 and 4 links now with the street stocks, but we ran a monoleaf.
Yeah. So you had to go out there, hang it sideways.
Oh yeah. So I show up to the driver tryouts and I got my pretty white fire suit. That's
awesome. And, you're like, look at this douchebag.
Yeah, they're all chirping. Right? But
that's awesome.
None of them had the cojones to go first. I said, I'll go first. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I jumped in that thing. I go tear ass around the track. There was 1 set of tire tracks in that track. It was brand new. They just tilled it up. There was 1 set of tire tracks in that track. I ran the same
line.
They pull in, you do 3 laps, you pull in, they tell you to do something, you go back out. They're trying to see if you're coachable, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to see if there's somebody you can work with.
Yeah.
I go back out, I do it again, pull in the pits, I downshift, I pull in, shut the car off. And next thing you know, they're announcing the names. There's four people are getting picked. There's only 4 cars.
How many people wanted to drive?
25.
Really?
25 or 30 tried out to drive. Some kids know they're just not a driver. They just want to work on them. Not everybody tried out.
Right.
I was the first one picked.
Wow.
So all them dirt guys are making fun of me for my white suit.
Right. Did you ever win a race in one of those?
No, we finished 3rd in the street stock. We won a heat race, 2nd in a dash for cash in the modified. It's hard to get a rhythm, right? So you're running every Friday night. I'm in a totally different car than I've ever ran in my entire life.
Yeah.
You're starting in the back. We had some mechanical failures. We were doing really good. I mean, I was supposed to be part-time in the street stock. We were up to 5th in points after like the 7th, week. And I grenaded the motor. And the students rebuilt the street stock engines. So we got the engine back, and it took a week or 2 of working on it to get the engine rebuilt. Put it in the car. I go drive it around the parking lot. Oil pressure drops to 0. And it's Thursday night. We're racing tomorrow. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So me and 4 of the older, so the seniors stayed with me. We pulled the plug out of the oil pan. Somebody left a rag in the oil pan underneath the baffle when they put it back together. Pulled the motor back out of the car, pulled the pan off, flipped it over, cleaned all the rag we could out of it, put it back together. They stayed the night. The instructor stayed with us. We got the car ready, loaded it in the trailer, and got to race it again because we were going to be done. So it was cool. It was like just like you would do now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Real race procedure now.
So it was fun, and then we ran the rest of the season, and we did really well. And then the next year I'm eligible to drive the modified because they let all the newcomers do the street stock. So I went from getting really used to doing good with that, and then they put me in a UMP modified, which is different than anything I've ever
really done. Hanging it sideways.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I got to race at Eldora with both the cars.
Wow,
it's sick. I loved racing dirt.
Crazy.
I hated Saturday morning listening to a power washer for 5 hours covered in mud.
Right.
I mean, that was the ritual. Saturday morning, we all go back to the shop, put them on jack stands, cover the seats, cover the dash, cover the MSD box, and just sit out there with power washers and ice scrapers and scrape mud off of everything.
Wow.
That was the worst part of it.
Yeah, right.
So when you came back, you went back to the late models for a couple of years, right?
I did, yeah. So I came back from school in 2014. I ran the late models for a long time, and that's what I forget sometimes. But so I came back in 2014, and we ran the late models until 2018 when we won the championship.
Yeah.
And we struggled. I mean, I was telling Emma just a couple weeks ago, I ran these cars for 5, 6, 7 years before I was like going on the track thinking I'm going to win every race that I'm in.
Yeah.
And it's a tough division. There's a lot of guys who have been doing it for a long time, and it's...
Yeah, when you come back 2014, right, Keith is still there, Bruce is still making appearances, right?
Yeah.
Is Dylan still there? I mean, Jeff Smith...
No, Dylan was gone. Jeff Smith, I think, maybe a year or so.
Yeah,
that
Jason's there, obviously.
Jason's there.
So there's still stout cars there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the amount of times we finished second or third in points by just a few, or, you know, that one bad, that's what changed my mindset. I don't know if it was 17 or whatever, but I just had a bad year going. And I lost my temper a couple of times and just screwed myself, right? And so it was like I decided I was going to turn over a new leaf and just try to be the calm guy that finishes races and does good, and it worked. I mean, next thing you know, we won 7 out of the last 9 races the year we won the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, we were dominant. It was me or Jason, you know, back and forth, and you know, it was awesome to do that. You know, Jason, I think, thought about the things he taught me when I was younger and maybe wished he didn't, because, you know, I used some of the moves and some of the information he gave me to win some races on him. And but at the end of the day, we're still friends, you know.
You know what's great about that is that somebody like Jason Palmer, right, who's damn good in those cars.
Yeah.
And he's got a car that's like it deserves antique plates.
Right.
And he's whipping everybody's ass with the car.
Right.
When we go racing with my nephew, he says, you know, Jason does that to me, and I did it to that guy down south, and it works. Right? You know, he's the great thing about it is, even though he's been in a division a long time, he's always been like a small mentor, teacher. Yeah. And I'm sure that you guys went at it, so there was a little competition rivalry started.
That's in his DNA from the legend cars. You know, all the kids that come up and lean on him in Jags.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's even when we went to set up our late model up there, he gave us everything. And he set up Brody's late model, and he had to try to beat Brody every week with the car he set up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? But there's a strong bond there. Right?
I remember. I think we've talked about this before, because when my cousin was racing mini stocks, he did that a little bit, and I remember asking him, like, why would you help your competitor?
Right.
And he's like, it helps all of us. Like, I don't want to race against a bunch of knuckleheads. Like, you want to race against people who that are smart and have good info and good cars. He's like, that's a lot of fun racing. You don't want to race worrying about, you know, if you have to drive against
is the wheel going to fall off that thing?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Together, you know?
And I never thought of it that way until that time, 20 years ago, you know?
I think there's also something to be said for some self-gratification as whatever it is that you know, that you're able to help somebody and make a difference in their racing career.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
100%.
so if I knew something and put it in Flannery's car, and he's like, oh my God, we are lights out now, and now you got to go try to beat him. But inside, you're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But you feel good, you know, because everybody's in this together.
Right.
Right. Where the hell are we going?
Right. Oh, that's like Todd, right? I mean, Todd didn't have to reach out to me.
Right.
Todd came to me when I was at Waterford.
I remember.
Struggling.
Yeah.
And just driving the wheels off whatever I had and holding on for dear life, right? And he came over and helped me with my POS CD car that I'd cobbled together. And And, you know, then now he's helping me. And now fast forward a couple of years, and, you know, every once in a while he's joking in the trailer like, son of a bitch. Like, now I got to, you know, I wish I didn't help you. Now I got to race against you. You know what I mean? It was like.
I think you're faster than him at both tracks.
So 2018 is when you went SK racing?
Yeah. COVID kind of screwed things up.
Okay, right.
Because 18 we won the championship. I sold the cars.
19 the Speedbowl's closed.
Speedbowl didn't open.
Yeah. So did you not race?
I didn't race.
Wow.
And then did we?
Might have run a couple open shows, no?
I might have. Yes, I might have ran a few open shows, you know, did a few things here and there. And then 2020 was like the half season.
Yeah, like August.
Right, it was like the weird deal. Yeah. So we came back with the SK, and I only ran a select few races. Just I didn't have a lot of help. We weren't super ready. I think we did like the fall final at Stafford, that in 2019. And then in 2020 decided we were going to run.
So those 2 years you ran maybe 10 races total?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You know, I played a lot of golf, went fishing a lot.
Yeah, right on. When did you hook up with Todd? Or when did Todd come over?
My first, like, kind of full season at the Bowl. So that would have been
2021?
2021. You know, toward the end of the season, Todd came over, and, you know, he was trying to help us. And that was the start of Todd, you know, just going on a rampage,
with
right?
The chassis pro stuff.
And my father's like, you know, I had a couple, and just build us a car. And Todd's like, just calm down, you know. You know, so, you know, and by the end of the season, it was like, no, we're gonna build a car. We're gonna, you know, do this the right way, and, you know, do it with somebody that we have some help with, right? And that's one thing in my racing career from when I started up until now. I've been fortunate to be surrounded by people that are, one, willing to help me, 2 that are good people and 3 that believe in me, right?
Yeah.
So I've been everywhere I go, from, you know, the quarter midgets with Chris Sherman to the legend cars with Jason, late models Jason, and then I got Harvick that comes, and Tom Fox that helped me for a while with, right? And those are all just people that on their own came to help me because they believed in me, and now I'm in the SKs and I got Todd and Butch and all the guys there. So it's just great to have that. And you skip a lot of the learning. You skip a lot of the struggle. You know what I mean? When you can get into a piece of equipment that you know is good, now it's you, right? Like, you got to figure out how to drive these things or how to race with these guys. So it was good. So Todd built a car over the winter. That was probably the first brand new car I ever owned.
Wow.
Like, from day one racing, that was the first new car I've ever had in my entire life. We always bought used cars or somebody, you know, hand-me-downs, whatever. So it was my little baby, you know, and we went out, we won a race the first year, which I was ecstatic. I think we only won 1 race that year, but we finished on the podium almost every other one of them, and, you know, just had a great time. And the second year is when Missouri kind of stepped out at Stafford with 10 races left, and Todd's like, hey, you want to come try it out? And the first 2 races, we drove from like 30th to 6th. So now I'm hooked. Now we're going every week. Right?
Yeah, right.
Todd knew exactly how to get me to, you know.
Smart play by him.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, you know, it's good stuff. You know, they're providing a very good piece of equipment, a very raceable piece of equipment, and it's on me to give them the right information and, you know, do the right things with the car.
So you have the Speedbowl car? Like,
that's my car. Yep.
You have that at your house?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's at Todd's right now because I destroyed it last year. It's easier at Todd's. I don't have a garage at my house yet.
Got it.
And Todd, they build everything. They build the spindles, the lowers, the uppers. So it's so much easier to say, hey, Todd, I'm going to come up Monday. And in 4 hours, it's torn down. All the new parts are on the car. I'm not calling Reliable. I'm not ordering stuff from wherever, waiting for it to get shipped in.
Right.
The only reason it wasn't done Monday is because I was waiting. We had to have Butch work second shift, and Butch does the shocks. So I had to wait for Butch to come. He came this morning before he went to work. He fixed my 2 right side shocks. So now it's throw the shocks on, scale it. We're ready to race.
So I feel like you're super close to the win at Stafford. Can you taste it almost
it's
here?
Like frustrating. Maybe that's part of my irritation. I mean, and you know, that's another thing. The Stafford car has been really good to us, and I was experimental last year with some suspension stuff that we were trying, you know, and didn't necessarily want to throw it into every car because it costs money to change things. So it worked, but it wasn't great. So we took that out, went back to the normal stuff, and then Todd changed the sway bar stuff for me, which he didn't have to do. He did that on his own. That's his own money. It's his car.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't pay for him to upgrade these things. He didn't have to do it, but he did. And that was the first week that we almost won the thing. I mean, it just went out
you had
there.
to change that week?
We changed the whole front suspension, sway bar, everything.
Oh, yeah.
And just went out on the track. And
Did he have the same thing in his car?
They had put it in his car before, so we had like a little bit of notes.
Oh, yeah.
And me and Todd have a similar feel, I guess, for the car. Our cars are very close as far as setup-wise. There's a few things that me and him like differently, but
Yeah.
that one with Marcello where we led almost the whole thing and lost it there.
Yeah, that right.
That was a tough one. And even last week, I mean, we finished third last week. We had a great car. I was just way faster behind him than I was in front of him.
Right.
It's funny how that place is like that.
It's crazy,
right?
And
it really
depends. You know, you got to be free enough to run out by yourself in the air. But
I mean, honestly, in the past month, you've been the second best car there.
I feel like, yeah. I mean,
it's hard to beat what the 82's doing.
Oh, right. I mean, they're on point, and you know, and I know fastest lap doesn't mean a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
But you go look at Race Monitor, and we're never below 5th or 6th quick on Race Monitor.
Yeah.
Come feature time. I mean, but you're talking hundredths of a second.
Yeah. Your car always looks real racy. Always looks real racy.
Yeah.
Yeah.